This is the GM Genius Network. So what I'm doing is I'm going to impart my knowledge of football, both real and fantasy, to you. And the reason why I think I'm qualified to do that is a long time ago, in approximately 1980, 1981, I became fascinated with not just the game of football. I was fascinated with how professional football teams were put together, how what made general managers pick certain players, what happened, and I picked up, I think it's called the Sporting News, and back then I was really big on writing people letters saying, hey, why do you do this? Why are you doing that? I remember writing to the Dallas Cowboys and to the at that time Los Angeles Rams, and asking them for information and so on. What I did get from both teams were little decals and stickers and letters saying, oh, thank you for supporting our team, and various, they were definitely form letters. Long before the internet happened. I'm old. I'm very old. And so think about it. This is 1979, 1980, 1981 that I was doing this, still in high school. But one of my letters was to a gentleman named Joel Bucksbaum. I didn't know him, knew he's a writer. I really was fascinated with how he broke down the players and how they actually, why a team should draft them. And I like the fact he went into depth for so many players. And at that time I became fascinated going, why is a player from Alabama getting drafted over a player from Podunk, Iowa, or since there's no Podunk, Iowa team, but from, say, Northern Iowa, when their stats are about the same, when their size is about the same, and so on. I wanted to know the ins and outs. Unlike the Rams and the Dallas Cowboys, who actually sent form letters, and I had sent my phone number and things like that, I got a phone call from Mr. Bucksbaum, and we talked. Now, it was interesting because if anybody got to know him, he's a very friendly guy, but doesn't come off a friendly guy. He comes off, knowing what I know now. I got older, we learned more, and unfortunately Joel passed away, I believe, in 2002. But we had, I think, 8 phone calls. One of them was very long, and cost close to $800, and my parents wouldn't let me talk to him anymore because he was in New York and I was in Indiana. So once they got that $800 phone bill, I wasn't able to talk to him anymore. So, but I learned more from those 8 conversations about looking at football players and looking at what to look for, and so on, and then I've seen or read ever since. Matter of fact, one of the things that has disgusted me over the years is scouts these days don't even know who Joel Bucksbaum is, and Joel created scouting. He's the father of scouting for NFL players. If it wasn't for him, it would not exist in this day and age. So let me point out that Joel is one of the reasons why the NFL is what it is at this time. A lot of people will point out Mel Kiper. Mel Kiper came up around about the same time. But Mel, who Joel said is saying his praises, I wasn't a big fan of Mel's because I'm going, he's not as good as you. He goes, oh no, he does all this. And Joel was very gracious about telling people that other people were better than him. There was nobody better than Joel. He was by far, it was and is, the best evaluator of talent I've ever ran across. Probably the second one who I really admired was Gil Brandt. Now, Gil Brandt and I did not have a relationship where we didn't talk or so on, but we overlapped a bit, where there are times when I would contact general managers, and I'll touch base on this. I'd talk to general managers who said, yeah, that's what Gil Brandt said too. So that would give me some credibility because they know Gil Brandt and I'm just an idiot out of nowhere. So I talked to him. I wasn't even out of high school, and I had all this football knowledge now that I seem to process correctly. Very good at this. I'm very good at picking players who are going to do well later on. So good at it that if I would have realized there was money in it, I probably should have made it my career. I didn't, but I should have. I would be very well sought after at this point because of my ability to judge talent. Give you an idea. My favorite team of all time is the Rams, and the Rams, we'll just say, struggled to be successful periodically throughout their tenure. One time they were looking for a wide receiver so badly, and I was watching the draft or reading about the draft, and sure enough, I hear about them skipping Carl Pickens, and the Cincinnati Bengals picked him up in the second round, and I lost it. I couldn't believe it. I go, this man is going to be a very good wide receiver. Why did the Rams pass him? Wasn't it obvious to them? Another time, much later on, I was watching the draft. Now it's being filmed. It's on TV, and sure enough, the Rams pick Eddie Kinnison. Now Eddie Kinnison ticked all the boxes, and if you're an Al Davis fan, you'll see he was tall, he was fast, and so it seemed to be an obvious reason why Eddie Kinnison would be picked over my favorite wide receiver in that particular draft, which was Marvin Harrison. So I got into an argument with some of the people around who were watching the draft with me, saying, well, and one of them said to me, he says, well, I am sure the Rams know more about who's going to be a better wide receiver than you do. You're just, to paraphrase Bill Polian, I believe, I'm just like a mailman. I've got an opinion, and who cares? But here's the difference. I would tell you that Bill Polian, I'm substantially better evaluator of talent than you are. You're a GM. I wasn't, but I would have done your job so much better. And Peyton Manning would have won a lot more Super Bowls if I was judging talent for the Indianapolis Colts. And I'm going to continue on with, I know this sounds very much like grandeur, but you're going to find out what I could have done for various organizations. And then I'm going to tell you what's going on at this time and how to pick your fantasy football. And I'll even help out current general managers if you want through this documentation or these videos I'm going to send or post. I think post is correct. You guys are allowed to speak. There's people here staring at me going, God, please just shut up and talk to the camera. But so by the way, Eddie Kinnison, Marvin Harrison, I was a big Marvin Harrison fan. Do you think he was right picking Eddie Kinnison over Marvin Harrison? Marvin Harrison's in the Hall of Fame. Eddie Kinnison got cut 3 years later, or traded 3 years later. So I think I'm going to say that I was probably right on that one. What was the other one? More recently. Let's talk about more recent ones. Recently, Lamar Jackson, when he's coming out as quarterback, I said he's definitely the best value, if not the best quarterback in 2018. I go, yes, he's got problems with control issues, but I wasn't a big fan of Sam Darnold or Baker Mayfield as far as being top tier talent. I knew they're going to be drafted high. But I said Lamar Jackson is the best talent for the quarterback at that point. And I want to point out that I'm glossing over Josh Allen. I did not think Josh Allen, at that point, I didn't think he was going to grow to be a much better quarterback. So I want to give kudos to Josh Allen. Mind you, I'm not going to be 100%. There nobody is. But I'm in the 70s or 80s as far as judging NFL talent. Those of you who understand how this works, if a GM is in the 40s, he's considered legendary. And I'm much better than that. So the reason why I would have missed on Josh Allen is he reminded me very much of Jake Locker. And Jake Locker, he had some control issues. Josh Allen had control issues. The difference is Josh Allen found Mr. Palmer. Mr. Palmer worked on his control issues. Josh Allen got better. So kudos to Josh Allen to see that he had a flaw in his game, go work on it, and by working on it, he became substantially better. So right now, is he a better quarterback than Lamar Jackson? Yes, he is. Is Lamar Jackson still in 2018? Would I have still drafted him? Yes. Would I have drafted him number one? No. If I was the Browns general manager, I would have traded down multiples of times. I thought he was going to go. Lamar Jackson was going to go in the in the late 20s, so I wasn't far off, and I would have got established a lot more talent around the Browns for that. In these things, you're going to find out I've done a lot of in-depth interactions with some organizations more than others, and the reason why is the way I like to come in and analyze a football team is I normally look for the team ran the worst, who has no chance at winning, and build them up from the bottom. What would I have done to actually make them a better team? So basically enough, I have a lot of information and a lot of interaction with the Cleveland Browns, who of course ignored everything I did. So we'll talk about that later on. But Joe Bucksbaum, if you don't know him, look him up. Every single person who's a scout, if you don't know who he is, look him up. Know this, he's better than you've ever dreamed of being. You'll never be as good as Joel. That's not a bad thing. Joel's entire life was built around, well, baseball actually, but you know, I wouldn't talk baseball with him. He hated that, but it's just not my thing. But when it came to football, he knew his football. And he knew football like nobody I've ever heard of before or since. And just to let you know, Bill Belichick, I didn't even know this at the time, but Bill Belichick and Joel had a very special relationship. Mike Brown, I did know about. Joel did mention Mike Brown. And so because of that, if Mr. Brown, if you ever see this and you want help building your team into a perennial Super Bowl power, talk to me. I can help you out to have that ability. So what I'm trying to do is, for one, save all the poor people around me who don't want to talk about football 24/7. And I'm going to talk to you guys who seem to be interested in it. And I'm also going to tell you things about the upcoming seasons, and when they happen, you're going to go, oh, he was right, and I thought he was such an idiot. Give you an idea. About 3-4 years ago, after the Rams went to the Super Bowl and lost to the Patriots, I told, and again, they're one of my favorite teams, if not my favorite team. I told the people I was playing fantasy football with that the next year that the Rams are probably not going to make the playoffs. I said it's highly unlikely they're going to make the playoffs. I was called crazy so many times. I was said, well, now we know you don't know anything about football. And lo and behold, the Rams didn't make the playoffs. Most of my predictions do come true. And because of that, this is a way of documenting those, because just telling friends and so on over a period of time, I've noticed people's memories change. They go, well, I don't remember that because it's not that important to them. Well, now there's documentation. So what I say, if I'm right, I get to say, look, I was right. If I'm wrong, you can point it at me and say, well, you whiffed on that one, didn't you? I'm not going to be 100%, but I'm going to be much higher than every one of these magazines you buy, like something like this. Which, by the way, I do recommend this magazine. I do. It gives you some information. Verify the information, because some of it's inaccurate. I just want to point that out. But so verify it. But for those of you, unlike myself, who don't know how to process information as well as you should when it comes to football, they do give you a good baseline. But overall, you better learn how to think outside the box. And this template will only make you a 45-50% winner. But that's better than zero. And it's a nice starting place. Now, I'm going to talk about all the teams, and then I'm also going to talk about how they're going to do this year, my belief, and that is before injuries and so on and so forth. If you want to talk about past drafts, I'll be happy to do that. But right now we're going to look towards the future. This is my very first video, so hopefully I'll slowly but surely get better at making these. Maybe we'll have better audio, maybe better pictures, maybe we'll have another person who's not behind the camera, who's in here, who could like tell me, hey, shut up and quit picking on Skip Bayless. But you know what? Skip Bayless is an idiot. And I don't care what anybody says. That man doesn't understand football at all. And I'm going to tell you, I mean, he said that Dak Prescott wasn't a leader of men because he mentioned he had some mental health issues. Let me tell you, it takes a man to actually mention they have mental health issues. That's why Skip Bayless will never understand that, because he's just not a man. But other than that, by the way, I'm being yelled at for trashing Skip Bayless. But you know what? Kevin Hart isn't going to come in here and trash Skip Bayless for me. So I'm here to help him out. So this is the end of this video. Now we know. I think I'm a phenomenal talent evaluator. I'm going to give real NFL GMs tips in some of these videos. They don't have to listen to them, but if they don't and their team doesn't do well, that's on them. If they do and their team does well, hey, feel free to take the credit, because how many people are really going to see these videos, honestly? And Skip Bayless is a douchebag. Other than that, that's it.